Stockport Voices was originally conceived in September 2017 as an original verbatim theatre project and was performed at the Stockport Garrick Theatre in 2018 during a new writing festival.
Recordings were made of dozens of people in Stockport, talk about their lives, events, characters, places they remembered.
These conversations were transcribed, edited, and turned into a script to be read aloud as a performance. So what you will hear in this piece are actors reading the words.
Words are not necessarily their own, and each actor will be playing multiple roles.
There are 3 sections: growing up, conflict, and community. These are Stockport Voices.
Section 1, Growing Up.
My nana, my dad's mum, used to play piano for the silent movies, and my great aunt, her sister, used to play the cello, and they used to play at Affleck and Brown's in Manchester, which was a really classy place. It was really smart then, and when my dad was growing up, they'd come round and there'd be musical nights with 4 or 5 of them in the front room, all playing music together. She used to teach the piano, so that's where I get my musical side from. She was a superstar. She played for a ballet school up to when she died, and she was 83 when she died, and I was 7, so she never actually heard me play, which is sad, isn't it? She was amazing. She was playing Liszt and Liebestraum and all the rest of it. And I've tried, but that's when I strained my hand, because it was just the 1st, 3rd, and the 8th, and in the end I pulled a tendon. But she played it. Amazing. And she was a single mother, because my dad's dad died when Dad was only 12. She was 40 when she had my dad, only child. And his dad, I think he was 54. He had a bad heart and died. So from the age of 12, Nana brought him up on her own, doing all this music. It would have been tough in those days, the 40s, 50s.
Long-standing residents of Brennington and Bredbury, the Camel's Hump was a small hillock situated between those 2 districts. Every year there was a battle between the youths of both sides. How and why it started, I never knew. Thanks to the motorway being built, the Camel's Hump is no longer a landmark. As a child, I was an avid reader of Enid Blyton's famous 5 books and formed my own gang. This included my best friend Anne and her 2 younger brothers, Chris and Anthony. Alas, neither of us had a dog, so we had to be the Fab Four. Strictly, we were supposed to play near our homes, but now and again we wanted to have adventures like our famous 5 heroes. For us, this meant exploring nearby Reddish Vale, with its waterfall and fields of wild flowers. Another escape was walking to Vernon Park, gazing into the fish pond and wondering how many fish there were swimming in it. This was followed by a visit to the park's museum, that contained a huge collection of Victorian taxidermy of wild animals that had really distorted faces. We were also influenced by the railway children, making a daily trip to stand on the wire fences to wave to the guards on the goods train. Every day we would look across at the Camel's Hump and wondered if we should go and explore it. The sticking point was that to reach it we'd have to cross a railway track. Additionally, Anne's brother Chris was in the habit of telling his parents what we'd been up to each day. We dreaded his opening words, "Guess what we did today?" which after he'd finished narrating the day's events, usually ended up with Anne being grounded the next day. So, if we were to have our adventure, the Fab Four would have to become the daring duo. The next days were spent on working out how we could slip away from the boys and complete our secret mission. We decided Saturday afternoon would be our big day. Armed with a can of pop and a pork pie, we set off to conquer the hump. It was a fine sunny day, and we felt very special that we'd climbed the Camel's Hump to sit atop of it enjoying our food and drink. I remember that when we came across a stream on the far side of the hump, but beyond that, it was a bit of a letdown. Eventually we returned to Brennington, safe in the knowledge that we'd had our adventure without any repercussions.
Growing up, I lived in Offerton with my brothers and went to one school with 1 holiday a year at Pontins. That's when Pontins was good. And we played out all the time in the cul-de-sac, We had loads of freedom. My brothers just went off on the park. We had so much more freedom than these have now. Most of my memories from being a child were playing out and all the different games we played and made up. One of the things I do think is quite unique is when we were young, is we used to go raving. So when I was about 18 to 22, you'd all meet up in the George in Stockport, and someone, either a friend or a friend of a friend, would have organised a coach. And you all got on the coach and go either to Stoke to a club called Golden, or you went to Burnley to Angels, or Liverpool where there was cream, or the Derby Renaissance. Where else? We went to Leeds, to Sheffield, or got the train to Manchester. And we just organised it between ourselves. Oh, it's my birthday, so I've organised a coach. And it'd be full. We'd all go to the coach and come back about 4 in the morning. Who does that? Who goes to Stoke when you're between 18 and 25, I would say? At the time, it was fantastic, but I knew at the time it was unusual. It's never happened since. But we had a good few years where that happened, and it was just amazing. I wouldn't like to do it now.
Regularly, we all went to dances at the town hall. I liked the older fashioned dances. Can't beat a waltz, can you? There's still brass bands and dancing there. You should go.
When Sanders of the River came to Marple, to the cinema, the Regent, everybody went. It was a big thing, the cinema used to be. And everyone was so inspired that the recreation ground was full of kids afterwards going, woo, 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 like the natives in the film. Now things have changed. Cinema, to television, to IT. You see people going round like woodpeckers on their phones.
There was a pub called the Thatched House. It was shut down many years ago, but that was known as being the first infirmary for Stockport. So it had a load of ghost stories attached to it. I remember going into the cellar and there was a room you couldn't actually get to. So that just enhanced the belief that there was something spooky, but I never, because I lived there.
There's nowhere to party. There's some lovely pubs, like Wetherspoons, don't get me wrong. But even with going to Spoons or something, I don't come here. I go to Cheadle Hulme. I don't know if that counts as Stockport, but it's not the centre of Stockport. It's a slightly nicer part of Stockport. Yeah, Stockport's very different depending on where you go. I like that there's lots of contrasts. I quite like the fact that we've got a haunted mill and a hat museum.
As we grew up, we were thinking about the drinking culture in the 80s and 90s. And we think that slowly changed because you can get 18, 20-year-olds and there's very different things in their lives now. And they're not heavy drinkers. But that was kind of certainly what we knew. It's just what they did in the 80s and 90s. It was just a huge drinking culture. The first drinks we had when we were young were White Diamond White, and then you became very ill and never had it again. In fact, I went to the Vic pub in Edgeley after County beat York at home to get to Wembley. They didn't have Diamond White, but they had something called Piggy Sticks. We've never seen them ever since, but they were bigger than Diamond White. I mean, me and my friend, we only had 3, and the toilet, oh! Well, then we all went back to John's house. There were a few of us. I just remember us reenacting the goal. One of us, Danny Bagara, one was Chris Beaumont, the scorer, and one was the goalie, and we were all reenacting the goal. And that was before I went home and was sick in the toilet. I'd work the next day as well. Those were the days where you wouldn't actually feel really rough the next day. I can't think of anything worse now.
I lived in Sheffield and I first came to Stockport in the 60s to visit John, my school friend from Ireland. He lived in Stockport. He took me anywhere but Stockport. It seemed dreary. I think Merseyway had just been built. I wasn't very impressed with the centre of Stockport. John didn't show me the market or that area. I know it better now. We went to Bellevue quite a bit, Altrincham skating rink. The flea circus at Bellevue. Now, that's an abiding memory.
Before I moved back to Stockport, I went to Beaver Road in Didsbury. I'd already moved around a bit. First to fourth year taught me so much about respect for different other people, different colours, other creeds. We had everyone: Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Chilean, Swedish, Danish. We were close to Manchester, people working at the university, all sorts of reasons for people being there. When I came over to Dalstone, it was a complete shock to me. There was one Asian lad in the year, one black lad. Accent seemed different. Even though I was born in Stockport, it was a big change. They thought I spoke funny. Growing up, I lived in Portwood. A couple of Asian families lived near us. And how they were treated was shocking. Akhtar, his parents came over in the 60s. This was the 1980s. Most people just wouldn't dream of treating people like that now. Stockport's changed. The motorway, the rail link to London, it's becoming the place to live. I'm not rooted, but it's the most settled part of my life.